Good afternoon and welcome once again to duPont Registry Tampa Bay's DRTB Live, broadcasting from our world headquarters here on Ulmerton Avenue in St. Petersburg. I'm David Warner. I'm the editor-in-chief of duPont Registry Tampa Bay, and I have with us today a really wonderful guest, Brenda McMahon, who is a wonderful ceramic artist and a gallery owner in the amazing town of Gulfport. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what Brenda does and about the ever sort of expanding art scene in Gulfport, which is a town that if you don't know it yet, you really got to explore it and find it. And we'll talk a little bit about why in a few seconds. But first, Brenda, hello.
Hi,
nice
David.
to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you for that introduction.
Oh, absolutely. I love your story about how you found Gulfport. So speaking of people finding it, right?
Yeah.
And how that eventually led to you settling here. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a magical story, as many people who have found Gulfport find it in a magical way.
Mm-hmm.
I was living in New York, born and raised in New York.
Upstate or in the city?
Born in New York City,
Uh-huh.
Born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens. And then I moved to upstate New York and Saratoga Springs area, and I was coming down to Florida to do art shows. And I would travel all over, and in between the weekends...
Let me back up a bit.
Yeah.
Because you came to being a ceramic artist relatively late in life, no?
Relatively, yes.
Relatively.
Yeah.
I won't go into
Yeah.
the actual chronology, but that wasn't your original career?
I did 10 years as a broadcast journalist, and I worked at public radio, and then I went to television, and I worked for the NBC and the ABC affiliates in Albany, New York.
Now, I don't remember. Were you on air or were you behind the scenes as a producer?
In radio, I was on air, and in television, I was behind the scenes. I'm not much of an on-air person, but here I am.
Here you are on air, broadcasting.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's so interesting. So how did that evolve?
So I sort of I was a good writer. I fell into television. A professor of mine asked me if I could write this story, and he goes, "Oh, you're a good writer. Why don't you come to my radio station and work for me?" And I was like, "Okay." And then that introduced me to public radio, which I hadn't really been aware of.
Oh.
I worked there for about 2-3 years, got my master's under him, and then I decided to branch out and go into television because I didn't want to stay in the area necessarily, and I wanted more diverse experience. And after 8 years in television, it was about 2.5 years in radio, I was sort of done, and I quit my job and I did a cross-country trip. Who am I and why am I here? And I came back to Albany, New York, not knowing either, but I took a pottery class, and I fell madly in love with clay that night.
Oh my goodness.
And that was 25
Love at first
years ago.
Spin or whatever
Love at
that
first
would be.
spin or touch or
Or
whatever.
touch.
It was an amazing, it was really like, I felt like it was a download. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. It was
And
very
clearly you were meant to do it because your pieces are beautiful.
Thank you.
And you can see them in Brenda's gallery in Gulfport. But could you describe the work a little bit in, the process and what you create?
Yeah, I do a line of throne work and a line of hand-built wall work. But my throne work,
not talking Game of Thrones, we're talking throne.
Wheel throne,
Yes,
right?
okay.
So we call it throwing on the potter's wheel because you literally take a wad of clay and you throw it on the wheel so it sticks. And then you center it and you create the forms, and so it's called throwing.
You know what? All the times I've heard that term, I never knew that's why.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. Yeah, it's a good
literally
little story. It's
thrown
so
on there.
visual
Right,
too, like throw it on the wheel, start centering it. So I create these vessels from a porcelain clay body, and they're sagger fired. So
They're stagger fired?
Sagger.
Or sagger. How do you spell that?
Saggar.
Not that you're ever going to have to spell that, folks, but
Yeah.
I like to know these things. Saggar.
It's a sister process to the raku fire process,
Okay.
which a lot of people are familiar
Right.
with. And I always say it's in the family of the smoke fire. So there's no glaze on the surface of my work. I throw it on the potter's wheel. I hand polish it with a stone so it's like polished porcelain. And then I put it in the kiln. It's satin smooth and white. I wrap it in grasses and seaweed and sawdust and Spanish moss and all materials that are indigenous to where I'm working. And I put a lid on that pot in another clay pot in a gas kiln the heat of the kiln heats the outside sagger. That's called the sagger. And then as those organic materials start to burn, they fume gentle marks of color and smoke on the surface. Very ethereal, mystical, just beautiful, quiet surface. It's a very Japanese feeling. When I finish firing the kiln, I rinse the pots, I put 4 coats of beeswax on the surface.
Beeswax?
Yeah, and that's what gives it that satin, just that little bit of a shimmer. Yeah, so sagger fired is what they're called. And they're very much meditative, quiet. It's a non-functional line of work, so they're decorative home art.
And so you began coming to Gulfport to sell your work as a ceramic artist at art shows?
I came to Florida.
I
didn't know about Gulfport.
Didn't know about Gulfport, okay.
Yeah, so I would come to Florida and work at weekend art shows, and then during the week I had 5 days, so I would go exploring towns. And it just so happened I was based in Clearwater, and I found the St. Pete Clay Company, which is now the Morian Art Center, or Center for Clay, I believe they call
Morian
it.
Center for Clay, yeah.
Yeah, so I started working there, and then I would explore areas around. I was driving my van, and I drove down 58th, and I hit the water, and I thought I was on the north side of town. I was on the south side of town. I made a left and another left, and I found Beach Drive. And I parked my van, and I went, I have no idea where I am, but I love this place. And that's how I discovered Gulfport.
So cool.
Yeah.
So now you get directions to how to get there if you haven't been there. I know a lot of people. I'm an old Cape Codder from up north, and I know a lot of people who moved to Gulfport or spent half the year in Gulfport and half the year in Provincetown.
Yes.
Which, if you've ever been up at that part of the world, is kind of analogous. The main part of town is a strip of shops, and then there's a waterfront area with shops along and restaurants along that. You don't really find anything quite like that around here. There's, of course, lots of waterfront, but a whole town that's basically, geared toward it. And the thing about Gulfport, it kind of reminiscent of Dunedin in a little bit, is that there are more. It seems there are more festivals per capita than in any other place in the planet. There's something happening every week. Today in Gulfport, there's their Tuesday Fresh Market, but there's all kinds of other events there, and the Gecko Parade you may know about, things like that. But the big focus, and more, Brenda's been a big part of this, is to enliven and activate the art scene there, which is already pretty vibrant, but is expanding. And you can talk a little bit more about that, but the thing that's coming up most immediately is the 5th annual Gulfport Fine Arts Festival, correct?
Correct.
Tell us about that.
So in 2015, the festival started, and it's it's a boutique art festival, and the whole point of it is that we wanted to showcase local artists and have a nice small environment where people could introduce themselves to Gulfport. So the festival is set up in Veterans Park, right by the water. It's easy, nice walking, free parking everywhere. And we've got painters and potters and metal artists and photographers. It's a really, really nicely
It's not on the main
It's
drag.
not on the
Oh,
street.
it's in the park.
It's in the park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's really nice. And you go to the park and you have your art experience, and then you can walk a block over, and then you can stop at any one of the, I think there's now 25 eateries around, have
Great
a drink, have
restaurants.
lunch. Yeah.
Call me for recommendations.
Yes. And then go all the way up the street to the gallery.
Yes.
We're on the north end of town.
Which is one of the ways it's expanding. You're in a brand new building, essentially.
That's right.
I mean, and let's actually, we should backtrack a little bit and go back to the festivals, because you fell in love with Gulfport.
Yes.
But that's different from deciding to open a gallery there. How'd that happen?
Yeah, so it's such an interesting thing. I think in the last 5 years, Gulfport has really been transformed. And I've been there 13 years. So I've kind of watched it be the sweet, beautiful little town that it is. And about 5 years ago, the Fine Art Festival started. And then I think it was 2016, I started the Art Jones Studio Tour, which is an open studio tour of professional artists in the area.
That's Art Jones, as in I have a Jones for art. I'm addicted to art.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then...
That started 4 years ago?
That started, 2016.
And you initiated that?
I did. I'm the founder of that. I have my list of things. And then I opened the gallery in 2019 because I felt like, wow, the vibe here is feeling so cool. And I was looking to change my art show scene. I'd been doing art shows for 25 years, traveling all over the country, juried art shows. And I was lucky to be in some of the best shows in the country. I was very, very honored, but I was a little tired.
Mm-hmm.
So I opened the gallery. And then, of course, we have our art walk. So there's lots of art happening there. And the gallery has art openings twice a month with live music out front, jazz, and all these, so I'm supporting the musicians, I'm supporting the visual arts. And we're even looking at the spoken word in the future.
Good.
Yeah.
I like me some spoken word.
Yeah.
So the festival, which is in the park on the 7th and the 8th, is one thing. And you mentioned the art walks. Those happen twice a month, is that right? In the Gulfport art walks?
We do. We have an art walk the first Friday of the month, and then on the third Saturday of the month, we have an art walk. And we're currently, and when I say we, the Gulfport Chamber, the Gulfport Merchant Chamber invited me to join the board of directors about 2 years ago.
Great.
And the reason for that is they wanted a more active arts representation on the board. And so they saw everything I was doing with Art Jones and my business and all of that. And so they invited me. So I'm kind of helping them harness and mold and really create a strong arts presence that's, the whole tier from the entry art level to the professional art level. So you can really see the whole range of everybody that's living there and beyond.
And so Art Jones happens in December?
It's the first weekend of December.
And now there's the Fine Arts Festival in February.
February 8th and 9th is
and
the
then
Fine Arts
every
Festival.
month we have the art walks.
Yeah.
That's a lot right there. Are there other events happening, or can you tell me more about expansions that might be happening to the art walk itself?
Yeah, I think those are mostly the art events. There's other events too, but with the art walk, we're really taking the first Friday, and we're taking that tents on the street concept away and bringing the art into the businesses, into the galleries, and right in front of the businesses as a way to honor the artists, so that for artists who aren't interested in doing a commerce tent sort of thing, they can be indoors to protect their work from weather issues that come up all the time, and to also give an opportunity for emerging artists who aren't in a position to spend money on all that infrastructure to show their work, have an art opening, see what that experience is like. And as a community, we want to up the art dialogue, using art as a way to communicate your thoughts, your feelings. Maybe, we'll have thematic shows, maybe about the environment. So we're really kind of focusing it a little bit more on the arts. And then our third Saturday is going to be more of a indie marketplace, fun, funky sort of booths on the street concept.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
So the art walks had always been the booths on the street idea, and one of them now won't be doing that.
Correct.
It'll be bringing stuff inside various venues.
That's right. Yeah.
How many actual galleries are there in Gulfport?
Well, we don't have too many. We have a few smaller gallery shops opening, and we have some restaurants that have really big spaces and nice walls. We have a few cafes. We have a new bakery in town. So we have venues like that aren't just restaurants, but not quite galleries.
So
but a lot of
that's where you'll find the art at that first Friday art walk.
At those
good.
spaces.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's a nice way to go into a place that you wouldn't maybe otherwise go into.
Right.
And you might go, oh, I don't know why I never came in here. That sort of thing.
And so how will people find out a schedule of events for this, for the art walks, for everything else? What's the best way to do that?
So what we're doing is we're going to unveil the new art walk in June. So this is all in the development.
Okay.
So right now we have our regular, lovely, wonderful, festive art walk, and so we've got a group of artists working behind the scenes, kind of molding and sculpting the new design. So you'll be hearing about it. We'll get the word out publicly. But in the meantime, the Fine Art Festival is a great way to come to town and feel that art vibe in Gulfport.
And I should mention that in the last 2 issues of DuPont Registry Tampa Bay, we've done special focuses on Gulfport. They were part of our walk and shop feature in our holiday issue, and it literally is one of the best places to walk and shop. You can just park your car anywhere on a sometimes it's a little hard to find a parking place, but most of the time it's not. And I've made some suggestions in the story that I wrote in the holiday issue about where to walk and shop. including Brenda's gallery, and which I also mentioned one of our favorite artists that we've written about in the magazine before, Zoe Bochik of Function House, who makes beautiful handmade furniture with her husband. And in this current January, in that issue as well, we had kind of a neighborhood focus and talked a little bit more, an overview of the neighborhood. And in this most recent issue, we had a message from the city about different events. And as we've said, there are so many different kinds of events and festivals all throughout the year in Gulfport, which on the weekends largely, but not always. Some things happen during the week, like, as I said, the Fresh Market happening today, which isn't, I guess, exactly a festival, but it seems kind of festive when you're there.
It's festive. It's got Fresh Market stuff, wonderful bread, but it also has, a little bit of art. Gulfport always seems to stick art in every little thing, but there's definitely a little. It's very fun, very festive, and the buzz on the street is really exciting.
Yeah, it is very cool.
Yeah.
I've run into some really good artists on that Tuesday Fresh Market. I think I just stumbled on it happening just for one night because we were having dinner there or something. And,
yeah. I have to tell you, one of my friends, I met him at the Tuesday Fresh Market. It must be 8 or 9 years ago, and now he's no longer doing the Tuesday Market, but he's winning Best of Show at art shows all throughout Florida and the country, and his work is amazing, and he started at the Gulfport Fresh Market.
That is cool.
It's really amazing.
What's his name?
Angus McCauley.
He's
an abstract painter.
Huh.
Yeah, really wonderful
and he
work.
began that arc at a essentially a farmer's market, sort of.
Essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he had art experience before that, but my trajectory into Angus's life was, and I actually said, wow, you have really nice work. I'm surprised you're here at the farmer's market because it was such nice quality. And he said, well, I'm just sort of feeling my way and I'm, trying it out. And he very quickly found his way, and he's done quite well for himself.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it's a good reason, if you're an artist, to check out the Gulfport scene. The doors are open to all kinds of artists there. And I think Art Jones, if you can remember it for next year, is really fun because you get to actually go into the studios where these artists work. And they're not just along the main drag. It's Beach Drive and what's the other one called along the water? Is that Bayshore?
Oh. I don't even know. I have to say, I think it's Bayshore.
Anyway, it's sort of a T. The Beach Drive goes down to the water, and then the along the water is another waterfront drive where O'Maddy's and so many other great places are. But beyond that, Gulfport spreads out, and so there are studios in other reaches of the town where you can discover these artists at work during a studio during a studio tour like Art Jones, or you can probably just find them and then go visit them any old day if you make an appointment.
That's right. And we pride ourselves with Art Jones that we really do 22nd Street. I consider the border, like on south of 22nd Street is the downtown and the water, and on the north side of 22nd Avenue, not street, I'm sorry, 22nd Avenue south. And we have half of our Art Jones artists are north of 22nd Avenue and half. So you really get to see the neighborhoods too.
Right.
So that's the other fun thing about the Art Jones studio tours. You really get to experience beyond the downtown.
So yeah, it's definitely worth visiting. And yes, beyond the water, in addition to the waterfront part of Gulfport, there's some lots of things going on the other side of 22nd. And 22nd is probably the way you'll approach it if you're coming into Gulfport from any direction. 22nd Avenue South. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right?
Yes.
Sometimes known as Gulfport Boulevard.
Gulfport Boulevard.
Yes. So now that we've totally confused you, I highly recommend that you stop by the Brenda McMahon Gallery and see the work that she has done and her artists have done. And to come to Gulfport or go to Gulfport on February 7th and 8th. That's a Saturday and a Sunday.
8th and 9th.
Oh, my God. Thank you for correcting me. Forget that. Erase that. February 8th and 9th. Saturday and Sunday. That part was right. February 8th and 9th, Saturday and Sunday, for the 5th annual Gulfport Fine Arts Festival. And more to come in the months to come. Thank you so much for being here. It's so nice to talk to you again.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching or listening, however you're consuming this broadcast. And we'll see you next week. I'm David Warner. This is DuPont Registry Tampa Bay Live. See you next week. Bye.